Many learning frameworks fall short in a way that Gholdy Muhammad's Cultivating Genius does not. Right. So many learning frameworks they give you steps, strategies, processes of developing curriculum, or even just instructing young people. What they don't give you is they don't give you pillars that sort of lay at the foundation of the curricular framework so that it might be able to excite learning. It might be able to get learning to be on fire. And Gholdy Muhammad's Cultivating Genius does that. Carter Curricula quote of the day. We are in Gholdy Muhammad's Cultivating Genius. This book I highly recommend this book. This book is powerful, and I think this quote actually stands as almost like the core of what she says in the entire book. I'll read it. You can see all the annotation marks on there so that we can make some sense of it. And ultimately, hopefully this quote fires us up for learning, for shaping learning as curriculum writers and teachers, and for teaching as teachers. So identity development, skill development, intellectual development, and criticality. These are the pillars of historically responsive literacy. I don't know if you know or recall Grant Wiggins' Understanding by Design, but he's got three pillars essentially on his, and his is knowledge, essentially knowledge, skill, and understanding. She has knowledge and skill, and then she actually has a more robust, in my opinion, a more robust foundation because it allows students to sort of become themselves. A lot of the curriculum design formulas that we have, a lot of it takes people outside of themselves. It pulls them out into their head almost, or pulls them out into their action. This framework, this foundation helps people to come and discover who they are. And you could see right there with number one, identity development. The pursuit of identity development is what she says that they are, rather than saying goals or objectives. She talks about pursuits. And so the pursuit of identity development is the first pillar, right? The finding out who a person is, like that is a pillar in her framework, and it is a pillar that's very necessary, especially for young people. And you can understand why identity development would be first in her list because it is important for people to know who they are. Because when you know who you are, you understand why you understand what you do, what you understand, and you understand why you do what you do. Because the second one is skill development. Skill always has to do with doing, right? So developing or pursuing increased or improved skills is the second pursuit. The third pillar is intellectual development. That's another pursuit that she calls inside her book, but it's also a pillar here. That's skill development and intellectual development. Those two are common in education. Those are simple to understand, simple to know. Knowledge and doing, right? Skill is the doing. Intellectual development is the knowing. Fourth is criticality. Now, this is a key component of cultivating genius because this now is sort of rooted in the discussion of Paulo Freire. That's the earliest moment that I know of criticality, the earliest text that you could find out more about criticality. And this is just questioning powers that be. So people are in power for a certain reason and they do certain things. So it's just a question of power, systems of power, people who are in power, and it is a learning about um, how to confront those powers, especially if you are a marginalized or in a traditionally oppressed people group. Criticality is the fourth pillar. So these four things stand as the foundation. As you work through the framework, you do you're working through any one of these four pursuits, any one of these four pillars. And she calls these the pillars of historically responsive literacy. Historically responsive literacy is historically rooted in the ancestry essentially of the learners. So historically responsive literacy is the literacy that comes or is rooted from those people whom you teach, their ancestors, what happened with their folks. And it just so happens in this book, she highlights African American literary societies as a place where she roots these four different pursuits. You got to have some pillars. If these aren't the pillars that you come up with, come up with your own 4 pillars, 5 pillars, whatever it is. But you have to have pillars that are beyond intellectual and skills pursuits. You got to have pillars that help students understand who they are and understand their world. So if skill and intellectual development are the only two, you're not going far enough. And Gholdy Muhammad allows us to go farther in creating a foundation that's beyond just cognitive development. It is affective development. It is really the development of the human being, the whole person. So that's all I got for this particular quote. Great book. Pick it up. Carter Curricular Quote of the Day. I'll see you tomorrow on the next one.